Hello, Fractured Protagonist here again. Today's video will focus on how your own job may be hurting you. Being in a job you hate can trigger a lot of negative emotions like chronic stress, burnout, anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. These can impact your mood, health, relationships, and overall motivation, leading to exhaustion and feeling of being stuck due to fear and self-doubt. All of this can compound into making you feel like you want to leave your current job. This daily misery can deplete your energy and harm your personal life and bring on a cycle of negativity, making it more difficult to have a sense of fulfillment. And all of this can add up to a negative psychological impact. The first one being emotional exhaustion and burnout. So you feel constant stress, which leads to feeling emotionally drained, irritable, and overwhelmed, hitting that state of burnout. Now, I've touched upon burnout before in my previous videos, and for those who don't know how that feels like yet, it just feels like every move you make is brought on by a feeling of heaviness, and there's nothing easy about anything that you do, even from getting up in the morning to brushing your teeth, maybe having your breakfast. Just the movements of getting ready for work, knowing that you have to be in a place that's going to basically take all of your energy for the whole day is going to feel like a whole drag on your self-esteem and your emotions. And you're going to be irritable because not only do you have to go to an office where you don't want to be and deal with people you don't want to deal with, but the commute to get there is going to be a pain in the ass. You're going to be in a train or bus full of people that are doing the same thing and most likely feeling exactly how you feel. And there's going to be no regard for personal space. People are going to be pushing and shoving just to get to their office, and there might be a chance that you or someone might end up in an argument or something even worse just before you get to the office. I myself have gone through this so many times I've lost count, and that's what you pay for when you live in a city, an environment that thrives on hustle and bustle, and if you're not fast enough, everyone's going to basically trample on you. And paying inflated prices to get to and from work never help. Then you start sitting there questioning why you pay so much to go to a place where you'd rather not be. Then once you get to the office, that next mechanism kicks in your brain of low self-esteem. And this is usually due to the fact that you may not feel recognized for a lot of the work that you're doing, and it puts a sinking feeling in your stomach. If you haven't felt it already, you feel trapped and it starts chipping away at your sense of worth, making you question your abilities and value in this specific workplace. You keep asking yourself if what I'm doing is actually enough or should I be doing more? And you start feeling guilty if you haven't already about whether or not you please your bosses and supervisors. And that guilt can have a habit of lasting all day, and it'll always trickle into the next day, leading you to have to question whether your performance levels are adequate or if you need to, do more in the office, and it's gonna keep creeping up on you, and you're gonna feel like you're never doing enough. And all of that is gonna put you on a fast track to loss of motivation and joy in the workplace. You're gonna hate your job even more, and your energy levels are gonna start running on empty. Pretty soon, you're going to start finding less and less joy in any hobbies or personal projects that you may be doing outside of the office. You might even start feeling physical symptoms like headaches, migraines, insomnia, maybe even nausea, and starting to experience a weak immune system. So you might start getting sick more often, and that's not a picnic. Now, I already have migraines on and off on my own, and the stress of the workplace may have added to some of that. And last year, I probably was experiencing a weak immune system because I did suffer from a bout of walking pneumonia. And I've never had that before, but when I went to the doctor, that's what they told me. And I've also dealt with many, many sleepless nights, which really sucked because that already impacts the rest of my day on top of the work stuff that I have to deal with. And I do pride myself in being physically active. I train every day and work out on the weekends. And I try to be mindful of my physicality at my age of 46. And I'm grateful that my body still allows me to do the physical training that I do every day because I don't just see it as a workout, but I see it as mental clarity and a form of self control and a way to control some aspect of my life. Because as we know, we are not in control of anything in our life except ourselves and how we react to things. But despite having such outlets, some people might even still feel stuck. One of the most common reasons for this is the fear of the unknown. We've all felt the fear of failure and being financially unstable in the workplace and not knowing how the next paycheck is going to be and where it's going to come from. And that can be a pretty miserable feeling on its own. A lot of people also feel comfortable where they are, even though it might be a negative experience on a daily basis. And this is because of the feeling of familiarity. It may sound weird, but our brains tell us that what we already know feels quote unquote safe, even if we know that it's not doing any good for us in the long run, because the newer path feels mentally taxing. And it's funny because it kind of sounds like a bad relationship where deep down inside, you know that the person you're with is a really terrible match for you, but somehow you have this hope, this sense of hope that it's going to work out. And you keep telling yourself, it'll get better if I just do this, if I just do that, and things will work out in the end, but you know it's not going to happen. Now, realizing these things may take some time, but there are ways to cope and move forward. Now, you can start by setting personal boundaries and protecting your time and energy. Now, this may sound counterintuitive, but you can consider maybe slowing down on going the extra mile at the office because, your time is precious and limited, and you don't have to go overtime and check emails and whatnot. You can actually go home at your scheduled time and not feel so guilty about it. I personally started doing this little by little, and it didn't really affect me negatively at the office because it's not like I wasn't doing my work. And over time, I felt less guilty about it to the point where I really didn't care. I realized that I had more time for my hobbies and I could put more energy into it and feel more energized about it. I was able to slowly regain some of the energy that I did lose, and it felt good. Other ways to regain that energy is to maybe find support, talk to your friends and family members, or if you can, find professional help and talk to them. This way, you can help unburden yourself from a lot of that weight that you've been carrying on your shoulders for such a long time. Your mileage may vary, but you'll start feeling lighter about yourself. And maybe when you've gained some of that energy back, you'll start considering building an exit strategy. Maybe you can start coming up with ideas to either find a different role at the current workplace or find a different job altogether that won't be so stressful and start draining your energy systems again. Another direction you might want to take is to perhaps start going into business for yourself. And this is where you can start researching for all the steps in which you can actually do that. Now, throughout all of this, don't forget to give yourself the self care that you need because everybody deserves it. You may have forgotten that it's okay to pause yourself, take notice of your situation, and assess whether what you're doing is worth the heartache in the long run. Once you get a handle on that, you can move forward. When all is said and done, we all get hurt by our job in one way or another, leaving us feeling unhappy in the workplace. Just know that there are ways to help cope with these feelings. Talking to people can help. Finding those small wins can also help put pieces back together when you feel like falling apart. Anyway, let me know in the comments if any of this was helpful to you. Do you have your own thoughts or ideas? Share them. Subscribe if you feel like it. That would be awesome. This has been Fractured Protagonist, reminding you guys to keep it simple. Talk to you guys later.